it was funny. When I graduated college, I said, okay, I'm going to take the summer off. I'm going to take a study course and I'm going to get the exam out of the way. Well, that didn't happen because I, was with my friends. I got distracted. I never, I just didn't do it.
Hello. This is CPA Career Path Podcast with Rosey Flaherty, CPA MSA, where we dive into thrilling journeys in the world of accounting.
Carla, thank you so much for being on my podcast today. How are you?
Good. Nice to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have a special guest today, Carla, a managing partner at AAF CPAs. So Carla, before we start diving in your CPA journey, can you introduce a little bit more about yourself to the audience?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. So I'm managing partner of AAF CPAs. So we're based here in New England. We're about 350 people and about 80 million in revenue. And I'm the immediate past chair of the AICPA. So I've been on the board. I'm entering my 6th year on the board of the AICPA. I've been in public accounting my entire career, and it's been an incredible journey. I absolutely love this profession, so my time volunteering for it has been really gratifying.
That's amazing. And congrats on being immediate past chair AICPA. I know I saw a lot of amazing pictures. You travel all different states and then visit all different state societies. That's just amazing. And for sure, we will go into more details about your role as when you was AICPA chair in the past. But first and foremost, I want to start your CPA journey when you were in college. Why did you decide to go with the accounting major at the very beginning?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because, back then getting your CPA was just an expectation. You graduated in accounting, that was just an automatic next step. There wasn't really a question about it. So how things have evolved over time is really interesting to me. The CPA has a very trusted brand. It sort of elevates who you are, right? So you graduated, what'd you study? Accounting. Oh, are you a CPA is the natural next question, right? And so it sort of comes with an elevated expectation of knowledge and commitment and all of that. So when I graduated, it was sort of a natural next step for me.
So did you have a difficult time passing the CPA exam at that time? Because I know back to your time, you can only take exam twice per year, and you have to take 4 sections all at once, not just one section each, like what we do right now. And so if you fail in the first time, you have to wait for a long time to do all over again.
Yeah, it's funny. It's when I'm talking about, how it was then, I always tell everybody, stop talking about it. Nobody cares what it was then. Yeah, so it was funny. When I graduated college, I said, okay, I'm going to take the summer off. I'm going to take a study course and I'm going to get the exam out of the way. Well, that didn't happen because I was with my friends. I got distracted. I never, I just didn't do it. Right. So I ended up just going right to work, and I worked for 3 years when I was, I didn't have my CPA. I wanted to get to the next level back then. You couldn't be promoted to a manager without the CPA. There's a lot of pressure of people asking you. So I finally, 3 years in, I was a senior. I had more responsibility. I decided to take the exam, and I took vacation time to study, quite frankly. There wasn't any of the support that we give people today. They didn't pay you for the exam. They didn't pay you to take it. It was just an individual expectation that you would take the responsibility to just get it done. And so I did end up studying and taking it. It took 3 tries for me to pass it. And so, what I tell people coming into our firm today is don't wait. And we can give you lots of examples as to why not to wait. You're in study mode. You have the least amount of responsibility your first year in. The more you wait, the more responsibility you get at work. Your life changes personally. Get married, buy a house, have kids. All these things that can just make it more difficult.
That's true. I absolutely agree with you about that. And also, when you move up, people are like, oh, you are a senior now, you expect to do more difficult returns or do more difficult projects. It means that it consumes more time. And so I don't have time to study for my CPA exam. So sooner is always better. So I hope audience listen to that again. I know we emphasize about this in a lot of different interviews I have had But it's always good to remind, like, sooner is better. Just get it out of the way so that you don't have to worry about that. And I know for now, a lot of CPA firms, they give you bonus for passing in the first year, second year,
That's
something
right.
like that.
Yeah,
So
it would
that,
be really great if the colleges and universities actually built it into their curriculum so that you were better prepared when you graduate to just take the exam.
that's a
And
good idea.
yeah, that would be really good. We'll see.
Wow, yeah, that would be a good evolution there. So they don't have to like, oh, I have to study extra after I
Right.
graduate to
Yeah.
pass a CPA exam.
Yep.
That's amazing. Yeah. And so after you graduate, it seems like you start working at a Philomeno and Company for first 6 years.
Yeah, so that Filomeno was a small firm in Connecticut, and it was in that's where I grew up in Connecticut, and so I moved home and got a job there. It was a small firm, so you did everything basically. It was a great start to my career. I think small firms give you diversity of work, which at the time I didn't realize it, but was a great foundation for the role I have now, which is leading a firm, because I understand all the different practice areas. I was in it for a period of time. I started my career primarily tax there, which is it's very common for small firms. When I moved to Massachusetts, and I overnight became a nonprofit auditor. And so that experience was just really valuable. But the managing partner of that firm inspired me. He was very forward thinking, very advanced and leading edge with technology. And in a small firm, you get client contact almost immediately. And it really taught me that this is a relationship business. And that's where I get my energy, is meeting new people and developing relationships. And when clients call you for advice, no matter what it is, not even your area of expertise, that's really where I draw my energy. And that's what made me fall in love with the profession.
It's interesting that I noticed that when I was in college, people always say about, hey, you should go to Big Four. Big Four is a golden piece on your resume, and you will learn so much about Big Four, a lot of connections, and uh, and people are like, hey, all you need to end after graduation, just work at the Big Four. If you don't like it, work at the first few years, that's okay. But at the same time, I talk to a lot of people. They actually like to work at small firms, like as you just mentioned, a lot of benefits. You work at all different areas in the small firm. You will be able to communicate with the client sooner. Big Four firms or like bigger firms, you will not be able to communicate with the clients until you probably like supervisor or above or managers, because they want you to do just work only from staff to senior. And so talking about that, do you think that students should change their mindset about their approach, which firms they want to start after graduation?
Yeah, listen, I talked to a lot of professors over the course of the year. I visit a lot of universities. I always highlight my small firm experience because I do think the universities put undue influence into students that Big Four is the only way to be successful. I completely disagree with it. I think a small firm gives you an amazing base. And I tell all the students, in fact, I'm doing a welcome to the firm today in our office. We have about 40 people between new staff hires, so first year, and interns that have been here on, doing some training for a couple of weeks. And it gives you an ability to move around and find your meaningful work. The only way that you're really going to find magic in our profession is if you find the work that gives you meaning, and where you start isn't always where you end up. And so you need to grant yourself grace. You need to try different things and take some risk. I know the Big Four support the universities in a big way, right? They name their cafes and all this stuff after them. Maybe there's an obligation to promote them, but I think a balanced approach to different size firms, business and industry, government, nonprofit, academia, all of the opportunities in our profession, and bringing those influences into the classroom during junior year when they're as for the accounting majors, would go a long, long way, I think, with students, because there isn't just one path to success. I started in a small firm. I came to AAF, which wasn't a large firm at the time when I joined. When I became a partner, gosh, we were 7 million. and now we're 80 million, right? And you have an opportunity, probably a greater opportunity to be an owner and partner in a small firm, and you have a lot of flexibility. It's just really a great option, and everybody's drivers are going to be different. And so I tell people, and when I'm talking to students, if your goal, and I've met someone who said, my goal is to be, a CFO. I want to be a public company CFO. If you want to be a public company CFO, my suggestion is go to the Big Four, because a lot of those people leave to go work for their clients, right? Or I've been told also, in some cultures, you're not successful unless you're going to investment banking or Big Four consulting, right? And that's how they define success. So everybody is different, I guess, is my point. And we need to just get more options in front of the students to hear different career paths so they know all the opportunity that exists in our profession.
I also noticed that a lot of mergers happening lately. And so people may come up to say that, hey, I want to work at a small firm, and then later that small firm merged with a bigger firm, and all of a sudden I'm working at the bigger size now. And in that situation, what would you advise when people see that coming, like a lot of mergers coming up and small firms kind of like less and less, and medium size and big size kind of more and more? How do they evaluate which opportunity is good in this case?
Yeah, I mean, we have the most diverse types of, at least for public accounting, the most diverse types of firms in our industry in the history of our profession. So we have small solos, we have small firms, we have traditional run firms, we have firms who have grown that we would say would be, and we're still considered a small firm. We're top 100, but it's funny when you look at the Big Four and you look at where we are in the 100 largest firms, we're sort of toward the bottom of that list. We have private equity owned, which are all different structures. You have a fund of firms, you have majority private equity, you have minority private equity, you have ESOPs, major firms that have done ESOPs. So there's a lot of different types of structures. So it gives students an opportunity to find out where they would plug in best. Like, what's the environment that would motivate them? So what I'm telling students is, ask better questions in your interview. Figure out where your values are, where you're going to have the most alignment is when your values align with your company values. So ask different questions in the interview about corporate culture and values of the company, and advancement opportunities and structures. They can even ask, what is your view on mergers and acquisitions and private equity? This way people know sort of up front sort of what they're thinking. And where you start your career isn't always where you end up either. And so you can start somewhere and always make a pivot in your career. The one thing about our profession is there's job security. We have very low unemployment rate here in accounting. And so there's people that move around all the time between different services, like I did tax to audit, or just different parts of the profession. They go from public to private to public, people who start in government, nonprofit. So there's lots of choices.
You mentioned about the fact that you moved from tax to audit. It's funny because tax and audit, they are so different. I moved from audit to tax and I love it. And so I'm just curious, what did you think at that time when you decided to move from tax to audit?
Yeah. So it wasn't it wasn't my choice. It was the firm I chose. So we were, at the time we were very weighted toward audit, and that's what they were hiring for. And I did maybe 4 or 5 audits over the course of a year, but not to the volume that AAF CPAs was doing it. And I liked audit, and I liked it better than tax. I'm going to fast forward all these years where we use type coach in our firm and we understand our personality types. It's very, very valuable. I tell the university professors, you guys should be doing this to the students before they graduate, because then they understand themselves better and they're more apt to plug themselves into the right job for their personality. So I'm an ENTP, so I'm an intuitive thinker, which means I'm big picture, vision, strategy. So you could imagine someone like that in the details of tax probably wasn't very energized. Audit gave me more opportunity to be out in the field, going to different clients. So there was more diversity of work and more client face time and building those relationships. And so I really aligned with audit better. So when I came here and did it exclusively, it really was not a problem for me. I really enjoyed that role. And it's funny because I enjoy my role as a leader and managing partner far more than as an audit partner. And now knowing my personality profile, it completely makes sense because I was built sort of to be in this whole vision, strategy, strategic planning, helping my partners, be successful. And it's like my dream job, really.
That's amazing. So now you just 100% focusing on growing the firm instead of completing the audit, something like that?
Yes, yeah, I don't have any client service anymore. And so the firm is my clients and the partners, right? So I have a fiduciary responsibility to make sure that the firm is growing, is financially stable, that my partners are successful, that we're successful as a firm. And so that's where I spend my time, is really on AAF. So
I see.
yeah.
So when you start working at Filomeno and Company for first 6 years, and then when you moved to AAF at that time, it was a small firm as well. Why did you decide to move from one small firm to another one?
Yeah, it was really geography. Back then there wasn't remote work like there is today. And I love the firm I started at. I still sort of see the managing partner there. That firm sold about, I don't know, several years ago, but I still see him now and again, once in a while. It was really moving here. And so I started to interview with firms here. That's how I found AAF CPAs. And the reason why I chose it at the time was that value alignment. I didn't know it, but when I was interviewing them, so I knew I wanted to be a partner. And so when I went to my interviews, I said, what is the path to partner? And the founder here, Herb Alexander, was the only person who would have that conversation with me. And he was very transparent and candid. And also he talked about their commitment to community service. And they actually had teams of adults with disabilities that worked here. They came in with job coaches and they would do filing and scanning and things like that. And that really spoke to the character of the partners. And that sort of really solidified it for me because this firm was not a downtown Boston firm. And so as a young woman in her 20s moving to Massachusetts, that was a big decision for me is what firm I was going to be at, that I wanted to spend the rest of my career. I wanted to be a partner. And it was that value alignment that really drove me here. And I feel very blessed that I chose it because, he really delivered on everything that he told me, which was that, I could be a partner. There's plenty of opportunity, that he allowed me to lead and create things along the way, and which has earned me a managing partner seat. And so I'm grateful. Yeah.
It's interesting then when you say that you interview the partner, because a lot of time when you go to interview, you always think that I am the interviewee and it's only one-way street. But actually, when you go to any single interview, it's two-way street.
For sure.
Interview you and you interview them as well to see if you are a good fit to that company or if that's what you are looking for. At the same time, the firm say, hey, I need to see if this candidate is the one I'm looking for my firm as well. So that's something I know is a lot of people who missed that concept. They just say, okay, I need to be the best candidate now. I need to prepare myself to show my best at the interview. So talking about that interview, I'm wondering if you can give some interview tips for young professionals. They going to look for the job. How can they prepare for it? How can they find a good fit for themselves?
Yeah, I mean, doing your homework is always helpful. So getting onto the website, doing some research on socials to see what the firm or the company is pushing out. Come prepared with questions and really be intentional about the questions that you're asking. So you want to ask about culture. Culture matters. Value alignment matters. So I did a recent LinkedIn post where I talked about being more intentional in your interview and asking better questions of your future employer to make sure you have that value alignment. And so, it's very much, in order for it to be a win-win, it has to be the right fit for both sides. Right. And so I know that students are like, I just want my first job. But you don't want to also enter the profession in the wrong job, because then you're not going to feel great about it. So that's generally kind of what I tell people. You're sort of, the transcript talks, shows sort of the classes, the effort, the grades, sort of the intellect. It's the other things. Who are you as a person? Will I be able to come into this workplace and be my authentic self? Will I fit in? Are there other people that look like me? Those are really important things to make sure people feel a sense of belonging in their firm. And so that's where I would gear the questions if I had to do it all over again today.
A sense of belonging. I think that's very strong because you spend a lot of time at work more than you spend time at home.
Yes, for sure. It becomes just part of your life. When you're in the right job, the integration between work and life, and if you're in the right job, it just becomes a part of who you are. And it's just has to be when you have the right fit, it's just really magical. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like your identity.
Yeah.
The job, it's just like, oh my God, I want to do a good job. How people look at me based on how good job I am doing. And so a lot of time I'm just stressing myself and say, oh my God, I wish I could do better. And then it's just like, it's okay. It's just a learning experience, a learning curve. Everyone is going through that period. But yes, a lot of time I feel like job is just my identity here.
Right.
And I was like, how can I make it better? How can I improve my identity? So it's affect a lot. People say that you spend how many, like 80%, 70% of your time at work, and then small amount of time outside of work, and then the rest is just sleeping.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, and when you move to AAF CPAs, you move from experienced senior all the way to managing partner. So you have gone through a lot of steps, stones, promotions, and then like different responsibilities add on your plate. What your best advice to young professionals when they want to move up in their career? How can they advance their career within the same firm? How can they prepare themselves with more responsibilities? Even because I know sometimes it's kind of overwhelming.
Yeah.
Whenever they have in the transition. So how did you deal with that transitions, and what advice you give to young professionals?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully where they are, there's transparency. I feel like if we're talking about public accounting, all firms should have competency-based performance metrics. So we have written competencies at every level in our organization, in every department. So they're different for our CAS practice than they are for tax versus audit. And so we had all our department leaders several years ago write down the competencies: staff, senior, manager, partner. We have income partner, equity partner. We have alternative schedule partner. It's the transparency of that, I think, is important. It shouldn't be a mystery how to get to the next level. And mentoring and coaching or a strong talent management department helps. But there should be an open conversation about what someone's goals are, and someone helping them, give them candid feedback as to what they need to see or do in order to be considered for that next level. And so I think competency-based is important. Transparency is important. Asking for opportunities is important. You cannot be shy. I tell everybody that comes in, you are your own advocate for your career growth. You can't sit back and wait for someone to tell you you're ready. You need to know what it takes, and you need to promote yourself, because you have hundreds of people in an organization. It's really hard to keep on track of what everybody is doing. And so in our talent management system, we have the opportunity, people have the opportunity to put themselves up for promotion and explain why they think they're ready and the experience. We also encourage people to ask for intentional feedback. And by that, it means like, oh, Rosey, can you give me some feedback on this job? I'm leaving it up to you to write my narrative. Why would I do that? I would be like, Rosie, can you tell me how my job control skills were? How did I do on that complicated issue that we had, or my communication skills with the client, or my client relations? Tie it to the competencies of the next level that you want to get to. Get that feedback. It's memorialized in your evaluation, and will just help you sort of get to that next level. But people should not leave a blank slate for feedback. You should be very specific in your asks so you're getting the right feedback to help you get to the next goal.
How you phrase, it's not what you ask, it is about how you ask.
Mm-hmm.
How you collect the feedbacks is very important, because if you ask feedback too general, people will give back to you general feedback and you have no idea how to improve it.
Or they only give you the good stuff and they forget everything in the moment. So if you ask for it in the moment while it's fresh in their mind, and they go into the system and do it right away, and you never want a surprise, right? Everybody works so that there's no surprises, right? So there should be nothing coming up in a verbal meeting of supervisors about someone that hasn't already been communicated with them and put in writing in their talent space. That is the goal. Like, nobody's perfect at that, but we need to get really good at that.
Yeah,